What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. So today we have a special topic to go over. We are going to be talking about a top 10 things to do going into BDO. And the reason why we're doing this again is because with the whole Abyss 1 Magnus that came out, a few things have changed and my top 10s would be a little bit different. So I guess this would be more for beginner players, returning players, or just like people who have gone into this game with like a certain mindset of, you know, a traditional MMO and to a sandbox one. So these tips overall should help just make the game more exciting for you. And ultimately, whatever you think is fun, just do that. But yeah, just some tips that may help you and you may or may not have known about. So I got my list over here, and let's start with number 1. These are not in any particular order. I just have 10 things that I think they're all important in some sort of sense. There's no like tier list or anything. But number 1 is, if you are a new player, the importance of making multiple characters. Now, I understand that in other MMOs, you have your main and that's it. In this game, you still do have your main, but there are benefits of having multiple characters. So for example, myself, we have, wait, hold on, how many is that set? 28 characters, right? Now, it's not that I actually play all 28 characters. This one is my main, my Dark Knight. But the reason why you would have more characters is because you have things called energy, and you can hold fail stacks as well, which is something that like enhancing, but we'll get into that later. So the reason why you'd have multiple characters is for multiple reasons. One, I consider these energy batteries. So like, you see how the 374 right here matches with the top? It's how much energy we have, and it's per character. And that means when they fill up on all of them, you can use it for something, whether it's like knowledge, vendor, just basically it's free passive silver over time. Is it a lot? Not really, but I mean, it's more than 0. So just having extra silver come in by literally time is always good. Also, with multiple characters, obviously, if you want to re-roll and play something else, that's, you know, another huge thing. Enjoyment and fun in the game is, you know, number 1 priority. Also, another thing that people don't really do, and with the whole Magnus system, it's less important, but it's still pretty useful to have, is having characters in certain locations, just because world bosses are on timers, and so just having a character that's not your main there is always important. So for example, myself, I have one at Garmoth, like basically every boss in the world, well, most of them that are relevant. So I guess putting a character at a certain like spot for bosses is always important. So like for myself, I have, if you look over here, I'll just have them at different spots and just different towns. I think towns itself are less relevant now because the whole fast travel with Magnus, but it's still good to have. What's next on our list? If you are a new player joining in because you've heard of the whole Abyss 1 Magnus thing that they advertised a lot. So basically, in a nutshell, the Abyss 1 Magnus was just a huge update for existing players. It changed a lot of quality of life things, and just overall, it was more of a quality of life, and that's mostly it. So in case you were just wondering and you got into the game from that, one thing I would start with is, when making your first character, make it on the season server, because seasons in this game is kind of like, you know, your ARPGs, I don't know, Path of Exile, Diablo, and all that other stuff. So like if you make a character, you have like more exclusive stuff. And I have a season character as well. Even veteran players, they do it most of the time. And what that means is you get a special set of gear, and it's a lot easier to enhance. You get good rewards just by playing through the season. It'll help you catch up to an extent to more or less veteran players, and it's not like you're catching up to them, but it helps you get up to like a more end game spot closer than you would if you didn't do seasons. But you get a lot of good rewards, and it teaches you how to like do a lot of the stuff in game. I will say some of the stuff is a little bit unintuitive, like enhancing to Vala. If you are actually a new player and you get all this like seasonal gear, right? The season gear is not hard to enhance at all, but then once you like graduate from season, going into like actual boss gear, that's where the game really kind of begins in a way. But yeah, with that said, I've been playing this game for a long time. If you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to help answer them, whether you leave it in the comments, join the Discord, or anything else. If you need help, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer it to the best of my ability. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to catch up nowadays in the game. Season servers, they had Jetina's quest line, which is basically an NPC you'll talk to that'll allow you to go the guaranteed pen route, which is like the best in slot gear at the moment. And it's just kind of like doing dailies and collecting materials to guarantee it instead of like RNGing it, which is how it used to be back in the day. So this game is a lot more casual friendly, which is, I think, overall a good thing. And this is coming from a person who's been playing the game since the beta. I think it's good that they're adding catch-up mechanics to the game, because like, you know what's worse than having an end game player with all this gear? If the game is dead and your gear means nothing. So I think it's good, and that's something you should do. Start with seasons, get your guaranteed stuff, and then go from there. And yeah. So next thing we have, whether you're a new player or not, I understand the traditional MMO is get max level, do the highest dungeons and trial raids and stuff, get the best gear, and go from there. And BDO is a sandbox game, and that means like it's not a race to get there. It's more like the whole progression and accomplishments you make on the way. So unlike other games where you just get to the end game and farm dungeons and stuff all the way to the end, this one you could do a lot of things. So your ultimate goal is to, like, you know, you gear up the same way you would in other games. However, how you do it is a lot different. So there is the grinding route, which is probably the one you've heard of, because when people describe Black Desert to you, they tell you it's grindy and RNG, and yes, that is true. However, they are making it easier, and there's a lot more stuff to do. So one thing I like to tell people about Lifeskills is, you know how in other games, there's fishing in every game, there's cooking, you know, your standard potion crafting. If you ever played RuneScape, kind of like that in a way. So every life skill in this game actually is worth doing to an extent. Well, some of them aren't, some of them are, but most of them I would say are worth doing, because you can get silver, which is the game's currency, just by, you know, doing anything, whether you go to the grinding route or the life skilling route. And unlike other games where you do those life skills more for fun, in here you can actually progress by doing that, and you have actual like grinding gear, which is your PvP and PvE gear, and then you have life skill gear, which is like a separate set for people who just like that part of the game. And is there a right or wrong thing to do? No, you can actually do all of them. Some are more entertaining than others, but yeah, that's beside the point. Basically, you just do whatever you want. That's the whole sandbox part of the game. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff. If you ever get confused, you could just look at the map and figure out, hey, I have this much AP and DP. Where should I grind? And you see these icons on the map, it'll generally tell you. And I've actually looked at all of these, you know, so like if you go to a spot and it'll tell you how much AP or something you need per area. I think those are a good general recommendation, because what they recommend there is the grind spots you could do optimally. So for example, if a spot says it's like you need 260 AP, yes, technically you can go in at like 240 and do it, but what their recommendation is for optimal experience. And doing it just fine. So yes, you can go in with lower. Will it be as efficient as going in with the recommended? No. So anyway, there's a whole tab over here. And if you ever get confused and you're like, oh, where do I grind? I have this much AP and DP. You just look at this list and literally click on anything and it'll tell you AP, DP recommendations. I have personally looked at every single one of them, and I would recommend, I would suggest that most of these are pretty correct. So to the point where if you went to these spots with the recommended stats, I think you'll do fine. For all classes, that is, as well. Some of them are very high end, which I would disagree to an extent with. But by the time you are at those points where you go to those areas, you probably already know how to play your class, and that's less relevant. So yeah, we could talk about that another time, but I would say 99% of these, the stat recommendations that the game provides themselves, are pretty accurate. So that's good. Another thing that I would say is something worth doing early on is setting up your workers and nodes empire. So the way it works is you have a thing called contribution points right here, right? And you get this by just doing quests and things that will give you contribution points over time. So like if you do life skills such as like cooking, alchemy, gathering, and a lot of other things. So let me just show you, for example. These are things that you get just by like byproducts from doing various life skills, and you could turn it into contribution points. And then you turn those contribution points into an NPC, and you get a number over here. You fill the bar, you get 1 point. Repeat until infinitely. So basically, with those points, what you do is set up workers and nodes. So everything over here in this gigantic world is something you can do. So you take any of these things, for example, these are what we call nodes, and they connect to towns, which is why you see all these lines through them. And so these are nodes. And then you see like a little pickaxe icon over it. That means there's a worker on it. And having that on there, so if you invest in the node, right? And then the node has to be connected in a way. So you can't just take like this one randomly. You connect them from a main town until there, and then if you wanted this one, you would have to connect this one to it as well. So, connect the dots, basically. And then with some nodes, you could put workers on them, and they'll get you materials over time. So it's just basically passive income, and you don't have to worry about it. Once you set the worker on it, you're good. The workers will bring node or your materials back and dump them into your town storage, and that's free money in a sense. So yeah, I would recommend doing that as early as you can into game, because I remember when I first started, I think I had maybe like 100 contribution points just not doing anything, and that's just passive money lost over time. You always want your workers to be doing something. So you know how mine says 1 out of 407 right now? You want the number on the left, the usable points, to be as low as you can, and their contribution point pool to be as high as you can. So yeah, if you want free money, just even if you're not playing the game and you're just logged in, that is something you should consider. I have a video on all my nodes and workers. However, the truth is, I put my nodes and workers on stuff that I personally would use myself. So there's no right or wrong answer on what you do. I think you should look at a lot of the nodes and figure out, hey, what am I going to use these for? And then pick those for yourselves. Obviously, there are some nodes that are more valuable than others, and you should just get over time for money. But for the most part, get the things you think you're going to use more. So that's just a general rule, and do it as soon as possible. Next, we have storages and family inventory. Now, this one ties directly with the whole Magnus thing, because recently, or before the whole Magnus thing was, you have to be in a region to use the storage for that. Nowadays, if you complete the Magnus quest line, which is the latest update, that the ad we've all heard of, I'll show you. You could basically withdraw and deposit materials in any storage now in any town. So what that essentially allows you to do is it's just like a free thing. You could, it's quality of life, best thing they've added, and I think it is something worth doing. So nowadays, I think storages are a lot more important than they used to be, especially main towns. So you just like you want to max it out as much as possible, and obviously you could do that in multiple ways by just playing the game, and sometimes they give like quests and stuff, and you could invest in storages by towns. So this is one thing that I think gets skipped over a lot. So in town, there's a lot of these like houses, right? And when you look at these houses, you can have a lot of things to upgrade. So if you want to upgrade your town storage, you can invest contribution points. Well, it tells you this right here. And then you could upgrade this into like level 1, 2, 3, and so on. And then you could get more spaces in your storage without spending real money for it. Or you could just spend real money. But I mean, ultimately, it's up to you. And then a lot of these are just like extra goodies that, I don't know. It's one of those things where you have to play around with. But overall, that's how you upgrade your storages. And I think more is better now because free storage slots are pretty nice. And there's one other thing. I don't remember what level you get it, but there's a quest for your family inventory. So basically, there's an inventory. This one is for your characters, right? Like every character you have has their own inventory. Pretty standard practice. Every character you have has a pearl inventory, basically to cash shop items and stuff they give you over time. And then this family one is basically a shared inventory from all your characters on the same account. And this allows you to dump everything in here as well. So I guess a little tip, this is just an extra. If you do have your family inventory, what is the best thing to put in here? Potions and scrolls. Because generally, if you're going to play multiple characters, what are you going to be doing on it? Grinding and PvPing, right? And or life skilling. Well, that's literally the entire game. But anyway, it's more important to put scrolls here because these are like your consumables and you're going to be using a lot of them. So yeah, that's what I have. This is literally it. So anyway, with that said, I think the whole getting more slots into your inventory is a lot more important nowadays than it was before. Just because you can withdraw and deposit freely, and it's pretty awesome. Next thing we have is one of the tougher ones to talk about. So you don't have to spend any money on it, but you do want to get some important skills on it. So we're going to be talking about pets and fairies now. So basically a fairy allows you to have some extra bonuses that they do over time. So the way this works is a fairy has 4 different tiers, tier 1 to tier 4. Well, I guess, yeah, tier 4, and then, is it tier, no, that's not tier 5, it's like 4, but anyway. So basically, every 10 levels, depending on what kind of fairy you have, it allows you to get another skill. So like level 10 gets 1 skill, 22, so on. So if you don't know what type of fairy you have, you'll look at the word over here. So it's like radiantly, which means it's a tier 4. The way you do that is by leveling it up, and then the progress bar will grow over here. And then if you can't go anymore and it's not level 50, that means your fairy is capped at a certain tier, and you just hit the growth button, and then you reset the levels and it goes up another tier, right? Up until tier 4. So the important part of that is once you get your tier 4 fairy, you want Miraculous Cheer and Feathery Steps. I would say those are the most important fairy skills you can get. Everything else is kind of extra and optional, but if we were to look at all the skills, is there a way to do that? Okay, so yeah, all of these, high priority on Miraculous Cheer, which is allowing you to auto potion, so you never have to press that potion button again, which is very good. Feathery Steps is, it allows you to carry more weight past your total limit. So if you can carry like 1,000 weight, you can now carry 100 or 1,200 or something, whatever 125% of your max is. After that, everything else is pretty optional, and I guess I would say continuous care would be third on the list of importance. Now, I personally think continuous care is more or less for endgame players, and the reason why is, well, you could use it early on. I think for people who are hard maxing like as many potions and stuff. So let me just show you how it works. So this is the continuous care button, and you could basically check up to X amount, whatever tier you have, and you can like check up to 16 things, and it'll basically auto pot on cooldown. And I think it's very handy. However, you actually using maximum slots is generally not going to happen unless you are in the 1% and you are like a super high-end geared player doing some high-end game stuff. And then yeah, so just take that from me, unless you really need all 20, and you're probably not going to use it. So it's okay to not get the hard maximum for that one, but I do think fairies are very important. Everything else, it doesn't actually matter. I personally like Morningstar because when I grind at night, sometimes it's actually pretty dark, and just having this be able to toggle on and off is pretty nice. Tingling Breath. I hate underwater gathering, but it allows you to breathe underwater for longer. Cool. That's about it. Sometimes you use it for underwater gathering, but generally that's it, and I don't really do that anymore, but whatever. So next thing we have are pets, and I actually have a video going over like all the pets, how to get a tier 5, the best skills to get, what you should get, how to get them, is it pay to win, and if I were to talk about that in a lot of detail, it would take quite a long time. So I think just in general, as in a nutshell, I would recommend people get 5 tier 1 pets over 1 tier 5 pet, because they allow you, or pets pick up loot for you, and generally having more pets at a lower tier will yield higher results than 1 high tier pet at a lower one. So if you want to check it out, I have a video on the channel on pet details. I'll try to leave a link in the description if I remember it. So if you're interested in the whole pet process and how to upgrade, get a tier 5 and all that stuff, check that out. Links in the description. But yeah, pets are important. Those are one of the high priority things I would say for people to get. And yeah, pets and fairies, people might overlook them, but they are super helpful. Next one we have is joining guilds. Now, this one has always been an interesting topic when I talk to people. Now, I understand people come into this game to just like, oh, I like this because it's a solo game. I want to do whatever. Now, the point of joining a guild, obviously, aside from the social aspect, and, you know, this is an MMO and an overall, and like, you're going in to meet other people, hang out with friends and whatnot. So even if you are a solo player, and overall, I understand that Black Desert, I would say 95% of the stuff you do in this game is solo. But joining a guild, aside from the social aspect of it, is good because guilds give guild buffs and like passive stat points in a way. So like, if your guild has guild buffs, you are just straight up like slightly stronger than someone without a guild. How much of a difference does it make? Very minimal, but it's like, just be in a guild to have them, even if you don't talk to your guild. But I mean, like, ultimately it's an MMO. You try to meet new friends, meet new people, find a guild that works for your play style, not the other way around. And yeah, that's what's something I would recommend doing. And yeah, just being in a guild actually gives benefits, even if you don't talk to them. Worst comes to worst, make your own guild, invite your friends, and you have your guild. You can get guild buffs along that way, and you're the GM of it. So next thing I would recommend, I always thought like messing around with your game settings is always something people do like once they first log in for the first time they've ever played the game. However, when I look at BDO settings, there are so many settings in this game that are turned on by default, and I'm just like, why are they turned on? So keep in mind, this is coming from a person who's been playing this game for almost 7 years now, and even now, just to show you something, alerts, I literally have most of these alerts off because I don't think I need them. And if I say that and a new player comes in and sees this, these are all on by default. And guess what you don't want to see as a new player? All of this stuff. So my recommendation for people is to turn everything off until you think you need it, and then turn it on, because the last thing you want to see is so much spam and nonsense on your screen that like will actually confuse you even more. So yeah, when you first log into the game, I know this is going to sound weird, but spend an hour tweaking your settings and turn a lot of settings off until you think you need them. So what you do is all on you, but personally, I don't think you need any of these. Like, I don't even have them on. If you like seeing nonsense flash on your screen every second, by all means, keep it on. I don't care. But just for your average person who likes having a clean UI and, you know, like you're just trying to learn things slowly at your own pace, turn it off until you think you need it. Next thing we have is energy. Now, we talked about contribution points earlier. Now let's talk about energy. Energy is it's not really a currency. It's just like a thing you have. So energy is earned by literally playing the game, questing, doing the storyline, killing enemies, filling out journals, basically just playing the game, right? So when we first talked about it, I think, what was it? What was the number one tip? Like, make multiple characters. Remember how we talked about having energy batteries? Now, you want your pool of energy to be higher, because higher energy means more things to do equals more money, right? So yeah, you want to, by playing the game, you just get more energy over time, and then the higher your pool is, the more you can carry on your other characters, meaning more money, right? That's always good. So overall, try to boost your energy as high as you can. At some point, I would say around like the 500 mark is where it gets kind of it slows down in a way, to the point where it's like you could still get more, but you kind of have to go out of your way to go higher. So if you ever see some other YouTubers or streamers with like 650 energy, they play the game a lot. They are definitely players who've been playing for a long time. So overall, more is better, but I think the hard cap right now is like 650 something, high 650s, and I'm like 100 off. So yeah, that's basically like doing literally everything into the game. But I think as a soft cap, roughly around like 450 to 500 is where you can get things pretty easily, and then after that it kind of slows down and you kind of have to go out of your way to get more. But some people like that. So I mean, this is a sandbox game. Do what you think is fun and go on from there. And now our last tip that we have is something that's pretty important. Obviously this is a thing in a lot of games where, you know how people re-roll characters, and when I say that, that's fine. I don't think it's a problem re-rolling. I think that it is a little bit more challenging in this game because it does cost silver and or real money to tag a character. So basically tagging in this game is when you take your main's gear and then tag it onto another character, and they get the same exact gear as your main. So it's 2-in-1 without having to re-gear another character. Now, the problem with that is in this game, silver means a lot. It's literally your means of progression in this game, and you want to have more silver, right? So people re-roll a lot, which I don't think is a bad thing. It just slows down your progression if you re-roll. And one thing I would do if you were planning on trying out a lot of other characters is play a tagged character, or not tagged, doing a trial character. And what trial characters allow you to do is go into the battle arena, or I think you can go into Red Battlefield, which is like PvP, and basically test out any characters with like more or less maxed out CP or not, or AP and DP. Well, I don't actually know what it is. It's like 261 or something. It gives you enough AP where you can combo and feel like you're doing some relevant stuff. But I think ultimately the point of trial characters is that you can test out a character, play with all the skills while they're unlocked, and everything else. So instead of re-rolling, I would try to play a trial character and see if that one is right for you. But if you want to play open world with like your main gear, tagging is the way to go. And yeah, ultimately, there's no right or wrong answer on what you do. I just think if you are a person who's constantly re-tagging, re-rolling, you're hurting your growth on your main character. So is it wrong? No, I think ultimately you should do what's fun for you. If that means re-rolling, by all means. But yeah, try to find a character you like early on and then stick with it. People have always asked me, oh, what's the best character I should play? Or what should I do? I'm just starting the game. And this is not really the answer people want to hear, but find a character that you enjoy, because a lot of this game is grinding in a way, whether it's life skills or grinding circles. And the last thing you want to do is do that on a character that you hate. So for me personally, I guess a little story on my experience. So when I first started the game, I played Valkyrie, right? And then I played that for maybe about a year. And then a little bit later, Dark Knight came out, and I've been playing Dark Knight as my main for like maybe 4 or 5 years. And Dark Knight has actually been considered one of the worst classes for about like 3 or 4 years. And then they slowly got buffed, and now I think they are considered like above average. So yeah, I've stuck with the character from like the bottom all the way to where they are now. So this is kind of like for every other MMO or just game in general. This is not BDO exclusive. I think players that stick with one character and not like be a jack of all trades, like if a character is bad and someone sticks with it, if the character ever gets buffed, they're gonna be like a god gamer, like, because they know how to play their class, and that's very important. But ultimately, if you're playing it casually, you do what you want. It doesn't affect me, so just do what you think is fun. But with that said, I am always happy to help answer questions for people, whether you are a new player or you just think you need help with like a gear progression or what should I do next. Feel free to leave it in the comments or join the Discord. A lot of my social media links are in the description. So if you feel like doing any of that, feel free to ask. Happy to help you guys. And yeah, I think that has been 10 tips for newer and returning players. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, drop a quick like on the video, and hopefully you guys will like subscribe and come back and visit again. So I do try to upload videos pretty regularly, so every day there's something new to watch, and maybe you'll learn something along with it. So thanks again for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.